new poll from Echelon Insights finds that Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s favorability numbers among likely voters are the same as Vice President Kamala Harris's and Donald Trump's at 39% and just a few points below President Biden, who has 43%. But the more notable statistic here is that RFK Jr.'s favorability is skyrocketing. It's a 14 percentage point gain since the last poll was conducted, while Biden's has actually decreased by double digits. So that is interesting and is part of the trend we've been reflecting on here. People not totally sold on Biden, even though he won election, obviously, had a pretty good midterm performance for his party. But, I'm not trying to be like some kind of booster for RFK Jr. I'm not likely to vote for him. I don't agree with a lot of things he has to say. But as I think we've noted on the show a couple times, he is actually going after Biden from on some issues from the left, talking about the corporate capture of the party, the pharmaceutical industry's pressure, et cetera, and then in some ways an appeal to at least where conservatives' heads are right now on vaccine mandates, other COVID restrictions, the lockdowns. So what do you make of this?
When I think about RFK's platform and the stuff that he says, I think, okay, this is someone who can turn people out who don't usually show up and vote. Like, that's the vibe I get. But this poll was done with people who are likely voters, and it's only got a 4 percentage point margin of error. This is a pretty convincing poll with him having a 17-point boost in his favorability. That says a lot. And looking at the poll and seeing what these respondents care about and what they're thinking about when it comes to the country, the top issue they care about is cost of living, and the second is jobs and the economy at 25% and 17% respectively. That tells you a lot about what they're voting about. Is it necessarily RFK's position on vaccines? No, but he's taken a lot of heat for his position on vaccines, so much so that people have not aired his commentary on vaccines. But it seems that the people who like RFK Jr. increasingly among these likely voters are people who actually care about economic issues, which is fascinating.
Does this put pressure on the Democratic Party to actually have a debate, if not a primary entirely, a debate at least between Biden and some political figures like Marianne and RFK Jr. who are making a splash, who are attracting some attention and some notice? Or is the Democratic Party just so they're going to continue to say, nope, it's Biden. We're not considering anyone else. We're not going to let you consider someone else. We don't want you to hear from anyone else. We're all on the same team here.
If I were to put my mind into the mindset of a Democratic Party consultant, which is very unpleasant for me to do, but I would say I'd look at this poll and I'd scroll all the way down to, if the primary was today, who are you voting for? That's what I would care about. That would be my concern. Right now it's 66% Biden, 10% RFK. So I don't think the Democratic Party guys are threatened enough by this data to say, okay, we need to actually have a debate so we can claw those folks back, because to them they see this is going to be expensive to have a primary. It would be much more convenient for us to just start running this candidate against Donald Trump from the onset. And so these numbers I don't think are enough to convince those Democratic Party consultants. Of course, as a member of the American public and participant in our democracy, I want those debates. I
mean, Democratic Party consultants are probably looking at these numbers and saying, Trump, more unpopular than ever, easy re-election ahead of us, mwahahaha, right? That's all they have that. I mean, we have to go back to the verified fact that Hillary Clinton in 2016 wanted to run against Donald Trump. Her campaign preferred it to be Donald Trump. They did everything in their limited power to assure that it would be Donald Trump. And that, playbook that's happened numerous times where the DNC has targeted the more Trumpy of the Republican candidates in Republican primaries and assisted them indirectly with free advertising, that kind of thing. I think that's gearing up to happen again. My perception is that maybe there's some reticence to want Trump to be the nominee because they know he can win the presidency, but there's a perception that he's easier to beat than a DeSantis or someone else.
Yeah, when I think about how the Democratic Party runs their own primaries, right, I don't think it's just putting the thumb on the scale. I really think it's going in with the whole elbow on the scale with the candidate that they really want. Yeah, they're just
do that again. Do that gesture.
This is a scale. Yeah, they're really
I don't think your elbow is going to weigh down the scale.
Maybe not my elbow. Somebody with a very big elbow who's the leader of the Democratic Party, yes. But yeah, that's really what they do in the primaries. And you're right. It's insane how they gain game our political system by picking candidates that they want their candidate to run against in the general, throwing money at those candidates. Why are we not looking to win in districts we don't usually win in? Why are we not organizing? And at the end of the day, they don't really love the progressive message. They don't have a vested interest in going and organizing in places they don't already have a base in. That is a flaw in the Democratic Party, and it's a losing strategy, as we saw in 2016.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if this trajectory continues. Obviously, you know, this happens to third parties all the time, where they have some polling numbers that aren't horrible, and then when the actual election comes, they tend to underperform those poll numbers because people will say in polls that, yeah, I really want to vote for the third party. I'm not going to vote for, you know, the two people who are the main people running. But then when push comes to shove, they end up voting for one of those candidates. As a third party voter, I've seen this, you know, occur to candidates. I'm actually out there voting for the third party, but other people say they're going to do that, and then at the end of the day actually show up for the Republican or the Democrat. So I don't know if a similar phenomenon is happening within the Democratic Party, where people are expressing interest in these alternative candidates, but if push came to shove, they would get behind Biden. I
think this is a case where an alternative candidate has a very unique opportunity, because among our top guys, right, I think Donald Trump, they have the highest very unfavorable ratings of all of these folks. Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris at 47% and 42% for both Joe and Kamala. That says a lot. These people, I think, would never cast a ballot for those candidates. That makes the landscape a little bit more difficult if you're those candidates and you make it to the general election.
Well, another notable increase in favorability was seen with Vivek Ramaswamy, a GOP candidate. Vivek Ramaswamy is someone we've actually interviewed on this show. He talks fast. He's been a conservative media personality, but he's also a businessman who really has concentrated on kind of the pernicious elements of wokeness and DEI and those things. He says he's going to ban affirmative action is a very important thing for him. Clearly, I think there's a perception that he had this interview with Don Lemon, and Don Lemon was let go right after that. I don't know that had anything to do with it. I kind of think they were already going to get rid of Don Lemon, but there's a idea that somehow he can put Don Lemon's head on his trophy in his trophy room or something like that.
That's an interesting narrative for him to have, right? Like, I was the guy that made Don Lemon angry enough that CNN fired him.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. He was making an interesting case in that interview that I think it would have been very easy to say, I don't think that history reflects what you're saying right now. But hey, he's getting a lot of popularity among the base of voters with the Republican Party that loves the NRA and loves his position on the Second Amendment.
Yeah. It's and in the kind of Republican civil war going on, as best I can understand, the DeSantis people don't like him. The Trump people seem to like him because they think his people are fighting with DeSantis's people, and that's good for Trump. If you can keep all that straight, that's my perception of it. If I'm wrong, you can tell me I'm wrong in the comments or something, but I think people think he has an alliance with the Trump faction.
That's very interesting, yeah. I don't know if that makes him unique from the DeSantis base, because while Donald Trump loves bashing DeSantis, when he does that with a crowd of his supporters, they're not exactly like, yeah, we hate that guy as well. And so I don't know.
Only on Twitter.
Yeah,
only on Twitter.
Right.
There's a lot of acrimony between the two camps right now. It's interesting to see. More Rising right after this.